Can you introduce yourself and share a bit about your background?
First question. Can you introduce yourself and what a bit about your background? I go by Rev. My full stage name is the Reverend Oni, or David the Reverend Brown Oni. That's as much as I want to go around my background. I grew up in a small town with, you could call them the salt of the earth type family, which can be translated into, we don't believe in mental health. We don't believe psychology. We don't believe that anything that could be considered a chemical imbalance is a real thing. That's just how I was raised. And I found out that that is completely untrue.
What are the diversities that you have? The diagnosis?
The diversities that I have, or my diagnoses, are ADHD, and it was bipolar 2, but looks like it has progressed to bipolar type 1, which means that I get all the fun aspects of bipolar, not just the mood swings and the mania, but I also have to deal with a very, very frequent issue of hallucinations. And it's not like I see pink elephants or machine elves or anything like that. What I'm seeing or hearing mostly is I have conversations with people who aren't there. Sometimes I will see some geometric patterns randomly. A lot of times it's almost as if I've microdosed with the hallucinations with the bipolar. So that's fun. But those are the two main ones that I have. The undiagnosed is complex post-traumatic stress disorder, which is something that I've been dealing with since I was a child.
When were you diagnosed with bipolar disorder and ADHD?
I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder very late in life. It was my late 30s when I had gotten the bipolar diagnoses. ADHD was assumed in my early 20s by people with it who basically told me that I had it because I was able to keep up with them in conversation. We would switch subjects at a breakneck pace. No one else could keep up with us, but I could keep up with everyone with ADHD. And that's when it was brought to my attention that there was a possibility that I had it. And then later on, after actually finally getting insurance, because in this country it's a lot easier to get guns and ammo than it is medical help, I was finally properly diagnosed with ADHD, something called the Ring of Fire, which means that every aspect of my brain that could be affected by ADHD is affected by ADHD. So that makes living pretty fun. And how long have I known? I didn't know what I had for a long time, but I knew there was something wrong with me, and I knew that there was something different about me as a child. And I do mean wrong, because mental illness is not... We dance around it, calling it divergency or neurodivergency. But this is not a superpower. This is not just a different way of being. This is something that is hindering. It is a roadblock. It is not something that I wish upon anybody else. It's not cute. Everyone knows about bipolar, about how disruptive it can be, but a lot of people don't understand just how disruptive ADHD can be to a person's life, especially when you're unmedicated. It's having both of these together combined, and there is a comorbidity between the two. I mean, If you get diagnosed with one, there's a good chance you're going to get diagnosed with the other. And it's been hell. My entire life has been hell because of this.
How has living with bipolar disorder and ADHD impacted your daily life?
Having these mental illnesses has impacted every single aspect of my life. Whether it's wake up in the morning and trying to figure out if I can function that day, or trying to figure out how to function, or my relationships, or just crossing the street. It's something I'd said to a partner as a jest, but it was true. It was, have you ever tried crossing the street via committee? Think about that, because I have so many things going on in my brain that sometimes just making a simple decision could take, for me, it feels like it takes forever. For others, it may only be a nanosecond, but for me, I've weighed every single aspect, every single scenario that could happen for me doing one simple aspect, such as crossing the street. And I don't know how much more plain I can make that about how this has impacted every aspect of my life. It is my life. Mental illness has become the biggest part of my life, and I resent that.
Can you describe what a typical day looks like for you?
What a typical day looks like for me. Jesus. Well, typical day, like I said, is I wake up and I try to figure out whether or not I'm stable. Because if I'm not stable, then I don't want to be in public. I don't want to be around people. I can't be around people. It's grueling. It's me protecting others from myself. It's really what I'm doing. While there is a part of self-preservation there because, hey, I don't want to lose my job. I don't want to lose these friendships. I don't want to have someone call the cops on me because I happen to went through a manic phase and freaking out, or because I'm hallucinating so hard today that I'm having arguments with people who aren't there in the middle of the street, and everyone around me is now afraid for their lives because I'm talking to myself. There is no aspect of my life that is not affected by these things.
What strategies or treatments have you found most effective in managing your symptoms?
The strategies that I use, or the treatments I use, are, well, first off is medications. I'm on 5 different meds. 2 in the morning, 2 in the evening, and then I have my as-needed medication for panic attacks or anxiety attacks that I hit, because when those hit, I become scary. I would rather people look at me as just some stoned idiot than thinking me as a demon, which is what a lot of them have done. Another aspect that I use, and it's something that is a unkept secret with a lot of us, is I do use, I guess you could say, recreational drugs, and I use alcohol to help medicate. Officially, we call this self-medication, but I use it to tune myself down, because sometimes I get so wound up from the ADHD and even the bipolar that I become a raging demon. And sometimes that medication just does not cover it. So after work, it's a beer or a cocktail, sometimes more, depending on what's going on that day and how I'm feeling. I mean, there are days where I have to carry around a dab pen on me because all day long I'm on the edge. And it's every single minute of the day where I'm trying not to lose my collective shit altogether. I'm trying not to be the demon people have told me that I am because of these diagnoses, that I use this. And I come home and I'll eat an edible, or I'll smoke a joint, or whatever, just so that I can not be normal, but not be hostile, not be a threat. I've had so many people who I love and who love me, even now, even though they know what I'm going through, what I have to deal with, that they'll walk away and they'll look at me and they'll have that look in their eye, that look that says, you will hurt me. You are not a person anymore. You are a monster. You are a threat. And that hurts. You have no idea how much that hurts to have someone you love, someone that you may consider a spouse, to look at you like that. It's devastating.
How did you deal with mental illness before your diagnosis and medication?
How I dealt with my mental illness before diagnosis or medication was simply this. I didn't deal with it because I didn't know what it was. Part of it was I thought I was in an environment, or I thought it was stress, or I thought it was a moral failing, and I tried to work around that. It wasn't until I found out what I was and what I had that it became manageable. That was the only time. Before that, it was sometimes not even knowing what I was doing until after the fact, and looking back at it, and then the shame. The people I hurt, not knowing that I had hurt them, or not understanding how I hurt them. That was something that still bothers me, or haunts me, if you will. Even today, even though I'm medicated and I'm trying to get all my meds zeroed in, it still affects me pretty bad.
Is self-medication still part of your regimen? And has self-medication ever gone too far?
Oh yeah, self-medication has gone real far, real quick, a few times. One of the main things I have to do is I have to look at myself. I have to think, should I be doing this? Do I need this right now? Or is it a compulsion? That's a balancing act. That's me going, this is something I'm using to help myself out, but what is it doing to me? Just like any other medication. I mean, one of the biggest drug crises at all times are prescription medications. Medications you need a prescription for. That's not to say you can't get it without a script, because I'm not fucking stupid. And neither are you. However, there are times when I realized I could not function without a drink. And that's when I stopped drinking. And I dried out for about a week or two until I felt, okay, I just want one. I want to have a drink. I want to enjoy a drink. I don't want to need a drink. I don't need a medicinal drink right now. I just want a beer. And that's where I had to keep my mind. The first thought I have when I hear I need a drink is, do you really? And I have to keep that balance there for myself. Self-awareness is one of the biggest tools that I own in dealing with my mental illness, and it's painful. Oh yes, self-medication is definitely part of my regimen. It almost has to be, because the meds help to a certain degree, but daily living, I have to tune down. And I know I said about the weed and the alcohol, but it's true. There are days where if I feel like my mind is racing, I use cannabis. And I know I almost said have to, and I don't like saying have to or I need to. When it comes to these types of substances, because I do enjoy my alcohol, I do enjoy weed. I mean, I'm a bit of a connoisseur when it comes to alcohol, specifically beer and whiskeys. These are things that I find to be hobbies. These are things I'm enjoying. I enjoy the flavor of them. I enjoy finding new ones. I enjoy mixing or pairing with these things. It's something that I find pleasurable. But I also find that the side effects, aka intoxication, helps with some of the more difficult aspects of ADHD and bipolar. It's a hard truth, but really mental illness is a gateway drug to addiction. Because every single one of us out there, every one of us who have had something like this, we will do whatever it takes to alleviate that pain. You look at any animal, any fucking person on this planet, if they're in pain, they're going to find a way to get around that pain. And mental illness is no different. It is painful. It hurts. Why do you think so many of us with bipolar fucking kill ourselves? We want the pain to stop. We want to stop the mania. We want to stop hurting others. We want to stop feeling ostracized and singled out and like we're something subhuman. And these substances takes that away from us. These substances alleviate those problems. And for one sweet moment, we are whole. I mean, I know I'm quoting a really, really raunchy Tool song, but it's true. This is where we are. This is what we do. Do with that information as you will.
Are there any specific routines or habits that help you maintain balance and stability?
As far as routines or habits, a lot of times it's consistency. A lot of times it's also understanding that if I have energy, I have to use it. I'm a bit of a Taoist myself, which I know I mispronounced that, but I have a Western tongue, and trying to say Taoism is not exactly the easiest thing in the world, but it's going with the flow. It's being like water, if you understand that term. Where if I have energy, okay, I can't sit still, I'm not comfortable in my own skin, I'm going to go take a walk. Or I'm going to go do yoga. Or I'm going to go practice martial arts. Or I'm going to go play video games. Or I'm going to do something. If I'm feeling aggressive, I'm going to go do something calming. If I'm feeling spacey, I'm going to give myself some time. I'm going to be a bit softer with myself and say, it's okay, just do whatever you need to do. Sometimes that means I'm just going to sit down and watch a movie or my pro wrestling, or I'm going to play a video game, or I'm going to spend more time with my instruments, making music. These are the things that I have to do. I have many hobbies, and all of these hobbies I use to mitigate what chaos is turning around in my head. Almost every single act I do has purpose. There's very few times where I act without thinking, because when I act without thinking, people get hurt, and I can't allow that to happen again.
What do you do when your mind feels out of control?
do when my mind feels out of control? I fucking hide is what I do. Look, when my brain... These aren't easy questions. When my brain feels out of control, sometimes I feel as if I'm some divine being and am capable of everything. Or sometimes I feel infernal and as if I could be the destroyer of worlds. Neither one of these are good ways to feel. Neither one of these are good aspects. These are things that I have to avoid. I have to try and stay somewhere in the middle, right? So what do I do when I feel like that? Fucking hide. I hide away. There's a controller in my hand. I'm playing a video game, or I'm playing music, or I'm watching something on television, or I'm developing a new podcast, or I'm writing a story, or I'm doing something. I'm doing something away from others. I'm being creative. I'm being positive. I'm exercising. I'm trying a new yoga pose. I'm attempting a new combination from Jeet Kune Do. I'm building a Lego set. I'm doing something. Something away from people.
How important has your support system been in your journey? Can you share how friends, family, or professionals have helped you?
Support system? What's that? I know that sounds crude, but a lot of times it does really feel like I'm alone in this. Because for the most part, a lot of people don't understand it. They can't comprehend. My partner, has schizoaffective disorder, so she kind of gets where I'm coming from, and even she looks at me some days and goes, I don't know how you're functional. I mean, this is going to sound so bad no matter how I put it, but when you have someone with schizophrenia asking you, how are you staying stable, and they're impressed, that should say something. That's how bad I get. But this is what I have to deal with. Sometimes I could find those rare individuals who understand it, who I can talk to, who will empathize with it. Sorry, it's hard to even say that word right now. Empathize with this affliction. And they're so rare. Most people give you lip service about how they understand and they know you're going through things. But again, the moment that you come up and you're manic, or you come up and you're frothing at the mouth, they suddenly don't want anything to do with you. So it's really, really hard to keep any type of support network there that isn't paid. I mean, I've had therapists and doctors who are willing to talk to me about these things, but that's about it. I mean, who the hell wants to sit in a room with someone alone talking about how they're having a conversation with a person who isn't there and they really want to kill them? No one wants to deal with that. So what the fuck is a support system?
What are some common misconceptions about bipolar disorder and ADHD that you wish people better understood?
The common misconceptions about bipolar and ADHD, or really about any other type of mental illness, is we can't turn this shit off. I mean, it's gotten better in the last maybe 5 years, but you still have those people who go, well, it's all in your head. No shit! I know it's all in my head. That's why it's just called mental fucking illness. I know it's in my head. I can't change that. There is not a magical on-off switch. I can't just suddenly go click, oh, I'm no longer bipolar. If I could, I would have done that fucking decades ago, but I can't. All right? ADHD is not just, oh, I'm hyper. No, it's disruptive. My brain will not function. It will not focus. It's jumping from subject to subject. If I sit down to work on a podcast or work on one of my recordings or to work on my music, and suddenly I hear a noise, it can destroy it. And I cannot go back to it because something else happened. These are not cute little things. ADHD is not a cute little funny thing to have. Oh, it just makes you quirky. No, it's not. This is something that destroys every single aspect of my life. It has tainted everything I have ever done. There is always going to be an asterisk across everything I have ever done in my life that says, yes, but due to bipolar and ADHD, it could have been better. Think about that. If you're capable of it.
Have you ever experienced stigma or discrimination because of your conditions? How do you handle that?
Oh yeah, I've experienced a lot of stigma from these things because if you have something like bipolar or schizophrenic disorder or narcissism or anything else like that, you're considered a monster. And I've said this a lot during the course of this interview, but it's something I want to hammer home. It really is. I want to really let people know what it's like, because you can't be a normal person with this. You'll never be a normal person. And yes, embrace the weirdness, whatever cute little quote from a t-shirt you want to apply to this. It's never easy. It's not something that I wish upon an enemy. This is something that I have to deal with. It's something that you people make me have to deal with. What do I mean? It's real simple. I'm not a human being as far as you people are concerned. I am my diagnoses. I am not, hey, this is David the Reverend Brownoni, who just so happens to have mental illness. No, this is a person with bipolar who may or may not be a decent person sometimes, but you better watch out because they're not reliable and they're going to turn on you at a moment's notice because they are a wild beast. That is the stigma I have. And if you think it's hyperbolic, I don't give a fuck. That's what I have to deal with. That's what I have to hide. And hide is the word I'm using because I have to hide from everyone. I have to hide everything about me. I have to hide my symptoms. I have to hide the effects. I have to hide the fact that I'm on medication. So yes, there is discrimination. It's just a loud discrimination.
Is there a link between ADHD and bipolar disorder?
And yes, I mentioned earlier that there is a link between ADHD and bipolar. There's a comorbidity between the two, which states that if you have one, you probably have the other. So whenever someone tells me they have ADHD, my first thought is, what else do you have? What else is going on in that brain of yours? What else is bringing you down? What else are you dealing with? That's what I think. Because that's what I have to go through.
Can you define hyperfocus with ADHD?
Hyperfocus with ADHD. How do I define that? It's very simple for me. I have found something that I want to do. This is the only thing I want to do. I have to do this one thing. This is the one thing that I must do. And anything that gets in the way is the enemy. Anyone that gets in between me and whatever my hyperfocus is my enemy. That's hyperfocus because I have to do it. It's not a I want to do this. It's a I have to do this. And if I can't, my entire life goes upside down, and I have to figure out how to deal with that or have a meltdown. That's hyperfocus. Hyperfocus is not fun. Yes, it can be very productive if I can channel it right, but the chances of channeling it right are usually about 7 in 10, maybe? And that's on a good day. On a bad day, it's 3 in 10. And those are the days when I just walk around the house trying to figure out what else I can do because my mind is saying, I must do this, I must do this, I must do this, I must do this, but I can't do this. But I don't care. You must do this, you must do this, you must do this. I can't do this. I had to find something else to do. Don't care. Do this now. Do you understand what that is? Can you comprehend how disruptive that can really be? I can't do about my daily chores. I can barely go to the bathroom when I'm hyper-focused on something because that takes away from me doing the thing I want to do. Whatever it is, it might be playing music, it might be recording a podcast, it might be doing dishes, it might just be painting my fucking nails. I don't know. But if I can't do that, things go ass up.
Is there a difference in how you experience hyperfocus with bipolar disorder?
There is a real big difference between a hyperfocus ADHD day and, say, a bipolar manic period. Because if I'm manic, then I feel like a god who can do anything. Hyperfocus is simply, must do it, must do it, must do it, must do it, must do it. That's the real difference between, say, hyperfocus and a mania. And to be honest with you, I would rather have the hyperfocus. At least I can get something done. When I'm manic, manic days are days I really wish I never had to experience.
What advice would you give to someone who has just been diagnosed with bipolar disorder and/or ADHD?
Advice I'd give to someone else who's just been diagnosed with either bipolar or ADHD is very simple. First off, get some self-awareness. It's hard and it's not easy to come by, but good God, you need to look out for it because you need to question every single aspect of your day and your life. You need to question about whether or not what you're doing is proper or if you're being fueled by something else. The other thing I would suggest, get your ass into therapy. And I don't mean that as an insult. I mean that as real, hard, loving advice. Get yourself into some type of therapy. Talk to someone. Figure out what you can do. Figure out what type of ADHD you have. Figure out what type of bipolar you got going on. And if you're afraid of meds, let me tell you something. Get rid of that fear real goddamn quick, because if not, you're not going to survive very long, or the people around you are going to suddenly disappear. Get yourself help. Look into into it. Figure out what you can do. Don't just let it slide, because it's going to kill you. It's going to destroy your life.